Welcome to another episode of Preferred Walk On. I'm your host, Max Chadwick. So the 2023 NFL Draft is in the books. Now it's time to look to 2024. It's the way too early 2024 NFL mock draft for all you sickos like me out there. I did this for PFF at pff.com, so go check it out if you want to read along or just watch this video if you want to see it in video form. But here it is, the way too early 2024 NFL mock draft. First thing I want to say though, because a lot of the comments on this mock draft were mad at me for how their team was picking, where their team was picking more specifically. I didn't make this order. It was based off the Super Bowl 58 odds according to BetMGM. So if you have any issues, go take it up with them. It's based off the Super Bowl 58 odds. That's how the draft order is. But let's dive right into it. Here is the 2024 way too early mock draft. First overall pick is the Arizona Cardinals, and they're going to be taking Caleb Williams, the quarterback from USC. So Arizona once again takes a former Lincoln Riley Heisman Trophy winner with the first overall pick. And a lot of people were saying they got Kyler Murray, they just signed him to a big contract. What do you do with him? Kyler Murray, there are very few quarterbacks in the NFL that I would not take Caleb Williams if I had the first overall pick. And I can't say Kyler Murray is one of them. So I think when you take Kyler Murray's contract, you try to trade it to some other team, you could probably get a pretty decent haul out of it, and you start over with Caleb Williams. And like we mentioned before, I mean, this guy is an absolute superstar, has a chance to join the likes of Trevor Lawrence and Andrew Luck as the best quarterback prospects that we've seen in quite some time. He led all quarterbacks he won the Heisman Trophy last year, also led all quarterbacks outside his structure in terms of passing yards, passing touchdowns, and big time throws. I'm not comparing this guy to him, but you better be ready for all of the Patrick Mahomes comparisons next year, because Caleb Williams very well might get it. Number 2 overall pick, Arizona again, and the number 1 pick was via Houston, because Houston traded them that pick due to the Will Anderson Jr. trade, and that could end up being a very high pick. And according to the odds makers right now, Arizona is going to be picking twice to start the draft, which has only happened one other time in NFL history, and that was the 1992 draft when the Indianapolis Colts selected first and second overall. Arizona, if they get it here, I think they're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, of course, DeAndre Hopkins' video came out where he's saying, oh, who said I ever wanted to leave Arizona? So maybe he's staying there, but still, he's getting up there in age. They could use an ex-receiver to replace him whenever he does leave Arizona, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. You can make a case he's the second best prospect in the 2024 draft. Of course, he's the son of a Hall of Famer, Marvin Harrison Sr., and Jr. is a freak athlete, man. I mean, he's 6'4", 205 pounds, and not only that, he was the best receiver in college football last year. He was both the highest graded and most valuable receiver in the country, according to PFF's wins above average metric, dominant in single coverage as well. Marvin Harrison Jr. has a chance to join like Jamar Chase, Amari Cooper as like the best receiver prospects that we've seen in like the last 10 years or so. He's that special. So Arizona getting Caleb Williams and then Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a haul. Arizona is going to be a scary team for years to come if they can end up with that. But third overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts. I have them going with Joe Alt, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame. So they just drafted Anthony Richardson with the 4th overall pick in 2023. Now it's time to help him out a little bit, get Joe Alt, who I'm not trying to be hyperbolic on this show. I'm saying it for the first 3 picks, but Joe Alt looks like the best offensive tackle prospect since Penei Sewell. He led all offensive tackles in the country last year in terms of overall grade with a 91.4 grade. Also led all offensive tackles in the country with a 91 run blocking grade. He was 6th among Power 5 tackles with a 2.1% pressure rate allowed as well. So dominant run blocker, dominant pass protector, massive tackle as well, 6'8", 315 pounds, over a 7-foot wingspan. Keep an eye out for a Joel interview coming on this show very soon. By the way, we interviewed Caleb Williams too, so go check that out if you haven't already. I forgot to mention that before, but Joel interview coming very soon on this channel. I can't wait for that. He's a stud. So learn that name if you haven't already. Number 4 overall, Tennessee Titans. This is one I really struggled with because they just took Will Levis in the 2nd round, and I think that's enough for them to pass on Drake May. It was very tough, though, here. So instead, I have him going with Brock Bowers, who I think might be the best football player next in this draft. And he's been the best tight end in college football the minute he stepped onto a college campus. As a true freshman, highest graded tight end in the country, most valuable tight end in the country. This past season, once again, most valuable tight end in the country. Led all tight ends in the FBS this past season in receiving yards, yards after the catch, and receiving yards after contact. So he could very easily join the likes of Kyle Pitts as like the best tight end prospects we've seen in recent memory, and he could be a top 5 pick, honestly, at tight end, which is rare. And Brock Bowers has that ability. And, Darnell Washington, a lot of people loved in the 2023 draft, ended up going to the Steelers on day 2, but Brock Bowers was clearly the better tight end at Georgia, so I'm saying a lot. All right, finally, Drake May off the board here at number 5 overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Most valuable player in college football this past season. He had 45 big-time throws, which were 10 more than any other quarterback in the country. Also, he tied for second among all quarterbacks in the country with 56 combined rushing first downs and touchdowns. So he's not a statue at all. He could definitely run. He's more of a pocket passer than like a Caleb Williams who creates magic outside of structure. But like I said, Drake May is not a statue either. He can run. So he goes to Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 5 overall. At number 6 overall, another guy that we interviewed on the show, going to the Commanders, Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle from Penn State. Like if you watch the video, was a projected first rounder in 2023, decided to return to school to earn his master's degree. So this guy dominates in the classroom, and he dominates on the gridiron as well. 84.7 pass blocking grade, 6th among Power 5 tackles this past season. He didn't allow a single sack and only gave up 1 hit on 281 pass blocking snaps. A lot of people would have had this guy as the top tackle in the 2023 NFL draft if he declared. Instead, he's coming back to school and should be one of the top tackles in what should be a loaded offensive tackle class as well. Number 7 overall, the Los Angeles Rams take Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback from Alabama. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey is on the Dolphins now. The Rams are hurting in the secondary. They're hurting everywhere, basically, but especially in that secondary. And if they make this pick and not trade it away, this would be actually the first round pick the Rams have made since they took Jared Goff first overall in 2016. So it's been like 8 years since the Rams have made a first round pick, and it would be Kool-Aid McKinstry here, in my opinion. So McKinstry was a first-team All-American for PFF this past season. 18 forced incompletions, tied for second among all corners in the country. Not only that, not only is he a dominant defensive back and, in my opinion, the best corner in college football, he also led all Power 5 players with 332 punt return yards as well. So one of the most versatile players in the country as well, going to the Rams at number 7 overall. Number 8 overall now, Green Bay Packers. This is a what I would do mock draft, because a lot of Packers fans, when they saw this pick, were saying there's no way they would ever do this, and I tend to agree with them. But I'm taking Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State here, because I feel like they need to take pass catchers. The issue is they don't do it. They don't take pass catchers in the first round. In fact, the last wide receiver or tight end they took in the first round was in 2002. 2002. It's been over 2 decades since the Packers took a pass catcher in the first round. So this is what I would do mock draft. I don't think they're doing this here in this one, though. But Emeka Egbuka, like I said, over 21 straight drafts now, they have him taking a pass catcher in the first round. I think it should end here with Egbuka. He's the second most valuable Power 5 receiver this past season, only behind his teammate Marvin Harrison Jr. And among returning Power 5 receivers, only Marvin Harrison Jr. had more receiving yards and more receiving touchdowns than Emeka Egbuka. So I think Emeka Egbuka would be one of the top weapons for Jordan Love, and I think the Packers, if they're smart, would start spending some premium picks on pass catchers. Number 9 overall, the Atlanta Falcons. Like Olu Fashanu, this guy would have been a top 20 pick probably in 2023 draft if he declared. That is Jared Verse, the edge defender from Florida State. He's a guy that I think is the best edge defender in the country going into college football next year. He was dominant in his first season at the FBS level, transferred to Florida State from Albany. He had a 24.4% pass rush win rate, 4th among Power 5 edge defenders, 10 tackles for loss or no gain, tied for 6th among Power 5 edge defenders. The Falcons could really use some help on that defensive line. They took Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick. I think Jared Verse will really help out that front seven. Number 10 overall pick now is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have them going with another son of a legend like Marvin Harrison Jr. That is Jeremiah Trotter Jr., the linebacker from Clemson. His dad, Jeremiah Trotter Sr., former All-Pro linebacker, and his son has really lived up to his name. He excels on passing plays. Only Power 5 linebacker last year with 80-plus grades both as a pass rusher and in coverage. He was second among Power 5 linebackers in passer rating allowed and open target rate allowed. So Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is awesome on passing plays, both in coverage and as a pass rusher. So I think he could very easily be a top 10 pick next year at linebacker. Number 11 overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks are taking Drazon Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois. Another interview that we're going to be having on this show. And he actually told me in that interview that he returned to Illinois partly because he looked at mock drafts and he wasn't seeing his name in the first round. And he said, well, that's got to change. And it changes here. He was one of the best defensive tackles in college football last season. He was actually the most valuable one in the Power 5, and he led all Power 5 defensive tackles with 59 pressures, and his 13 tackles for loss or no gain tied for the most among all defensive tackles in the country. So I think Drazon Newton's the best defensive tackle in college football, and I think he could very easily be a top half of the first round pick, honestly, even though he's a little undersized, but still, man, he dominated in the Big Ten this past season. I can't wait to show you guys that interview. He was an awesome interview. Number 12 overall pick, New England Patriots are taking J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle from Alabama, the right tackle from Alabama. He was an elite pass protector for Alabama this past season, earned an 84.5 pass blocking grade on true pass sets, which was 4th among all tackles in the country. On 486 pass blocking snaps, he only allowed 1 hit and didn't give up a sack. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not he moves over to left tackle this season, like Evan Neal and Alex Leatherwood did. In the spring game, he actually played right tackle, so we'll see. Either way, though, J.C. Latham is one of the best tackles in college football and will be probably a top 15 pick, top 10 pick in the draft, and could push Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu for OT1 and what, like I said, should be an excellent offensive tackle class. Number 13 overall, the Las Vegas Raiders are taking Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback from Washington, who I think is the early favorite to be QB3 right now. Obviously has some question marks. He's a 6th-year senior, going to be 24 years old when he gets into his rookie season in the NFL, coming off 2 torn ACLs at Indiana as well. But this past season, he was fantastic. He led all Power 5 quarterbacks with over 4,600 passing yards, and his 1.3% turnover-worthy play rate was the 5th lowest in the country. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo, not the long-term answer in Las Vegas. Michael Penix Jr. could be, and I think he's right now the favorite to be QB3. We're going to get into another guy pretty soon that has a chance to overtake him, but I got to see more from that guy. Number 14 overall pick, the Chicago Bears are taking Dallas Turner, edge defender from Alabama, probably lower than a lot of people thought he would be going here. I think he's maybe not as good as people think, but he's got the tools to become a superstar. He just hasn't quite shown the consistency yet for me. But listen, the Bears took 2 defensive tackles on day 2 of the 2023 draft. Now they got to find some juice on the edge. And Turner overshadowed a little bit by Will Anderson Jr. the last couple of years, but he has 14 sacks over the last 2 years, which are tied for the second most among returning Power 5 edge defenders. Just got to see some more consistency in that regard, though, as a pass rusher and run defender from Dallas Turner. But tools-wise, could be a top 5 pick in next year's draft. The 15th overall pick, the Chicago Bears are again on the clock due to the Carolina Panthers trade, trading the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. And I have them going with Kalen King, the cornerback from Penn State, who was the true superstar in Penn State's secondary, even with Joey Porter Jr., who was the 32nd overall pick in the 2023 draft. King led all corners in the country with a 93.3 grade and an 18.3 passer rating allowed in single coverage. His 15 forced incompletions in single coverage were tied for 3rd as well. very underrated player. Learn that name. Kalen King is going to be one of the top corners in the draft, and I think he's a top 2 corner in college football heading into next season as well. Another corner comes off the board here to the Broncos at number 16, and another Iowa defensive back. So the Broncos took Riley Moss in the 2023 draft. They're taking his teammate here in Cooper DeJean, who is a stud. He's a versatile player. He can excel both as a run defender or in coverage, both on the outside or in the slot. He's actually the only corner in the country with 85-plus grades, both in coverage and as a run defender. He had 5 interceptions last year, tied for 4th among Power 5 corners, 15 run defense stops, which were tied for the most among all corners in the country. So Cooper DeJean, one of the most versatile players in college football. Number 17, the Texans, via the Browns, due to the Deshaun Watson trade, they're going to take Leonard Taylor, the defensive tackle from Miami, Florida. He was a former top 10 recruit coming out of high school, 19.5% pass rush win rate, 16.2% pressure rate. Both those numbers trailed only Kalijah Cansey among Power 5 D tackles. With an increased workload, Taylor could be like a lot higher than number 17 overall. Like he could be like a top 15, top 10 pick. He's got the tools to be that good. Didn't really play enough snaps for me to put him that high, but when he was on the field, he was dominant as a pass rusher. Number 18 overall, the Los Angeles Chargers. They could use some more pass catchers even after selecting Quentin Johnston in the first round. I'm going to give him a tight end here. Jatavion Sanders, who I think is tight end 2 in the draft, from Texas. He is a freak athlete, 6'4", 242 pounds, former top 15 recruit coming out of high school. He had 32 combined receiving first downs and touchdowns, which trailed only Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, and Brock Bowers among Power 5 tight ends. Jatavion Sanders is a freak, and he should be Quinn Ewers, one of his top targets next year. The Giants at number 19, taking Chop Robinson, the edge defender from Penn State, transferred to Penn State from Maryland this past season, dominated in his first year with the Nittany Lions. Led all Power 5 edge defenders with a 90.6 overall grade and a 92.4 pass rushing grade. Also led all Power 5 edge defenders. His nearly 24% pass rush win rate was 6th among Power 5 edge defenders. Again, like Leonard Taylor, we'd like to see a kind of an increased snap workload for him next year, but Chop Robinson is a guy that I think could be a lot higher than number 19 overall, just based off how he looked when he was on the field last season. Number 20 overall, New Orleans Saints taking JT Tuimoloau, the edge defender from Ohio State. A lot of people think he might be a top 5 pick heading into the summer and all that. I'm a little lower on him. He's got to show me some more consistency. He had one of the best games you'll ever see against Penn State. In that game, he had 2 sacks, 2 interceptions as an edge defender, 2 interceptions, one of which was a pick 6. He also forced a fumble, had a fumble recovery, a tackle for loss, a batted pass, and 3 pressures. However, outside of that game, he earned a 67 grade across the other 12 games of the season. Physical tools are great, former top 5 recruit. Just got to show more consistent dominance for me to have him higher than here at number 20 overall, especially as a run defender. He's got to improve as a run defender. Number 21 overall, Minnesota Vikings, taking Quinn Ewers, quarterback from Texas, one of the highest rated quarterback recruits ever. First year as a starter this past season at Texas after transferring from Ohio State. Kind of disappointing in that first year. Still had ridiculous arm talent, and he flashed it often. Had a 6.6% big-time throw rate, which was 6th among Power 5 quarterbacks. The issue is decision-making and accuracy. He kind of trusts that arm a little too much sometimes. He had the 8th worst adjusted completion rate in the Power 5. And adjusted completion rate basically is your completion percentage and then plus any drops that your receivers had too. So his adjusted completion rate was still the 8th worst in the Power 5. So if he could rein it in and you know, maybe not take as many risks and maybe get a little more accurate, he could join Caleb Williams and Drake May at the top of the draft. But I haven't seen it yet, so I think 21 overall is safe for Quinn Ewers. 22 overall, Miami Dolphins taking Graham Barton, the offensive tackle from Duke. He was the only Power 5 tackle this past season with 85 plus grades, both as a pass blocker and a run blocker. He had 17 big-time blocks, which are PFF's highest graded blocks. That's 5 more than any other tackle in the country. Probably would have been like a day 2 pick, second round pick if he decided to return to school as a late first round pick in this mock draft. And the Dolphins really need to do everything they can to protect Tua Tagovailoa, who said he considered retirement after this past season. So they really should be looking to boost that offensive line. Number 23 overall, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Denzel Burke, the cornerback from Ohio State. Really good as a true freshman. He's starting an outside corner as a true freshman for Ohio State. Allowed a sub 50% completion percentage, also forced 10 incompletions, didn't allow any touchdowns. Sophomore year, kind of regressed. He allowed a 110 passer rating when targeted, but still, he's got the tools, 6'1", 190 pounds, really good press corner. He could go a lot higher than this with a bounce back season. I need to see that bounce back season though before I put him as potentially a top corner in this class. Number 24 overall. Another Ohio State player who I've seen a lot higher in way too early mock drafts. I'm a little lower on him because I need to see more, but Michael Hall Jr., the defensive tackle from Ohio State, only played 266 snaps this past season as a part of their rotation. He did flash on those snaps, though. He had an 80.3 grade, 6 sacks as well. So, Ravens, they lost Calais Campbell. They could use another player on the interior defensive line. Michael Hall Jr., I've seen in top 10 of some mocks. I'm not ready to go that high, but I will say he looks like a first-round pick just based off tools alone and what he showed on limited snaps. I'm excited to see what he does on an increased workload next season. Number 25 overall, another defensive tackle going to the Detroit Lions here as Mason Smith, the defensive tackle from LSU. He only played 8 snaps this past season before tearing his ACL on a celebration, but at 6'5", 300 pounds, he's a freak. He played mostly on the edge at that size for LSU in his freshman year, which shows how incredible of an athlete he is. He had 4 sacks on 198 pass rushing snaps as well. Again, like Michael Hall Jr., got to see a little bit more from Mason Smith for me to put him higher, but he's got the tools to go a lot higher than this. Number 26 overall, the Dallas Cowboys are taking Cooper Beebe, the offensive guard, tackle, center, whatever you want to call him from Kansas State, just an offensive lineman, period. He's spent his first 2 years at offensive tackle before moving to left guard this past season. Over the last 2 years, his 94 pass blocking grade leads all offensive linemen in the country. He hasn't allowed a sack over the course of his 770 pass blocking snaps since 2021. So over the last 2 years, nearly 800 pass blocking snaps, didn't allow a sack on any single one of them. Most valuable returning interior offensive lineman in the country, and I think Cooper Beebe is going to be a first-round pick, and the Cowboys could use some help on that offensive line as it's getting a little older with Tyron Smith and Zach Martin entering their mid-30s now. Number 27 overall, I have the Packers taking Cameron Kinchens, the safety from Miami, who they should be getting this pick. The Packers is a Jets pick, should be getting it if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps for the Jets, which, unless disaster strikes from New York, it's probably going to happen. So Kinchens going to the Packers here. He led all safeties in the country with a 90 grade and a 90.7 coverage grade. Also 6 interceptions, tied for the most in the Power 5. He's a center fielder from Miami, would be a great center fielder in Green Bay. Next pick, number 28 overall, the Bengals taking Kalen Bullock, safety from USC. I know a lot of people are saying, why would the Bengals take a safety after they took Daxton Hill, Jordan Battle? I think Kalen Bullock's really good. I think he's a guy who could be a free safety for the Bengals. Daxton Hill I like a lot as a slot corner, and their nickel in that defense. So I think Kalen Bullock, they could still take him here. I think he's worth this pick too, is really the big reason why I want to take Kalen Bullock in the first round here. And really these mock drafts, these way too early mock drafts, are just about getting, all of the first round picks that you think are going to actually be your first round picks into the mock draft. I think Kalen Bullock has a chance to be that. So I wanted to get him in here. But still, look, they lost Jesse Bates at third. Yes, Daxton Hill could be a good replacement, but I still like the fit in Caleb Bullock in Cincinnati. Bullock, first-team All-American this past season, third most valuable safety in the country, according to PFF's wins above average metric. He had 5 interceptions, which were tied for 5th among all safeties in the country. So I like Caleb Bullock a lot. I think him and Cameron Kinchens are fighting for that number 1 safety in next year's draft, and it should be a lot of fun seeing who wins that battle. Another USC player here at number 29 overall to the 49ers, that is Jonah Monheim, the offensive tackle, the right tackle from USC. They just lost Mike McGlinchey. Could use another right tackle. Jonah Monheim can do that really well. He was the second most valuable tackle in the country last season, only behind Joe Alt, who was the number 3 overall pick in this way too early mock draft. Monheim had the most pass blocking snaps in the country without allowing a sack or a hit. He had 570 pass blocking snaps, and he didn't allow a sack or a hit on any of them. So I really like Jonah Monheim a lot heading into next season. Another offensive tackle here, going to the Bills. That is Kingsley Suamataia, the offensive tackle from BYU. Former really highly rated recruit, went to Oregon, then transferred to BYU, former 5-star recruit. Really good tools at right tackle. Had an impressive 80.9 pass blocking grade in 2022. Bills could still stand to improve that offensive line, especially at right tackle, and I think Kingsley Suamataia would do a really good job at right tackle for them. 31 overall, Philadelphia Eagles taking a receiver here. That is Xavier Worthy from Texas. Down year for him, had some drop issues, really just had not as good of a year as his true freshman year. He had 10 more targets as a sophomore, but still had over 200 fewer receiving yards than he did as a freshman. So, and 4 fewer touchdowns as well. The big thing, I think, the reason for that is that he became mainly a deep threat for Texas. His average depth of target was nearly 18 yards as a sophomore. As a freshman, it was like 13 yards. So one of his best attributes, in my opinion, is his ability after the catch and his suddenness as a route runner. And I think Texas should really be trying to use more of that in the short and intermediate game. Just get the ball in his hands in open space and let him go to work. So hopefully they do that next year. I still like Xavier Worthy a lot, though, as a first rounder in this mock draft. Chiefs finishing out at number 32, taking another receiver, Rome Odunze from Washington, who one of the most productive Power 5 receivers in college football. He was phenomenal. I think he's actually the 3rd best receiver in the country heading into next season behind Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. He had 605 yards against single coverage, trailed only Marvin Harrison Jr. among Power 5 receivers. 3rd most valuable returning Power 5 receiver as well, according to PFF's wins above average metric. I still think the Chiefs could improve in that receiving core, and I think Rome Odunze would do a really good job in that receiving core as well. So that's what we got for this way too early mock draft. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Got some big time interviews coming, more videos coming as well, and hope you guys enjoyed the video. So that's all I got. See you next time.